hearty laughter now from Chamberlain and Co. and that conversation about the CNG and all of that. And I hear Ayo say you don't spend foreign currency, but guess what? These are global commodities, so that means that they are affected, just like crude. Nigeria sells in dollar, buy in dollar. So these are global commodities, and because we are part of OPEC and other associations and bodies, then we have to stick to it. But anyways, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We do about 30 minutes of business and head back to the guys who are having a great laughter right there. We start from the global space. Oil prices extended gains on Monday on fears of a major spillover in fighting from Gaza conflict into the Middle East that could disrupt regional oil supplies while approaching U.S. interest rate cuts that are slated for September lifted the global economic and fuel demand outlook. We'll keep our eyes on the number. So nice green for a Monday morning, and hopefully it will stay that way. Well, not so hopefully, because it means that there'll be some things wrong. So it's up this morning 0.7% at $79.58 a barrel. WTI of the United States, $75.40 a barrel. That's up even further, 0.75%. Now, in one of the biggest clashes in more than 10 months of border warfare, Hezbollah fired hundreds of rockets and drones into Israel. That happened on Sunday, as Israeli military said that it struck Lebanon with around 100 jets to thwart a larger attack. The clash raises fears that Gaza conflict risk morphing into a regional conflagration that could draw in Hezbollah's backer, Iran, and Israel's main ally, the United States. So this is why we see that green there. Fears bring increase in the price of oil. Now let's come back home and look at our currency, the Naira. This is for Friday's close. A positive sentiment we saw at the close of trade for the currency on Friday. So we see that on NAFEM, the Naira gained more than 1%. I think Anita has conversations around that for Business Incorporated at 1 p.m. Let's find out the driver of that, even though we see that the reserve dropped at the close of transactions last week. But the Naira closed at 1,570 Naira, 14 kobo, after it opened at 1,586 Naira, 11 kobo. This is for Friday. NAFEX, we saw a drop, 0.08, so not so marginal though. 1,596 Naira, 85 kobo. That's what it opened with on Friday, but closed at 1,598 Naira, 7 kobo. But you know, we keep our eyes on NAFEM. That's where you have major transactions for the currency. And I was just talking about our reserve. Nigeria's foreign exchange reserve declined, and for the third consecutive week, as the gross reserves level weakened by $63.50 million week on week to $36.44 billion. That's our reserve, $36.44 billion. That's our reserve as of August 22. The latest drop in the country's external buffers, which comes despite the CBN's FX retail auction, is largely to persistent demand pressures and cost the Naira to trade with high volatility during the week. The external reserves have recorded a marginal decline of 1.16%. That's about $430 million in the last 2 weeks since the central bank reintroduced the retail Dutch auction into the FX market. Now, let's talk about reforms. About a year ago, the president did form that Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms headed by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, and we've seen their proposals. In fact, some of them have already been being implemented. Let's keep our eyes on some of them. Now, there's the withholding tax, you know, exempting small businesses from that. That has already been put into announcement, and hopefully it's being implemented as we speak. Then the consolidation of over 60 taxes and levies into 8. Mr. Oyedele has been telling us that even though we have about 60 taxes, you barely have revenue from that getting to the government's coffers. So that's why they said they want to streamline it to effective 8. Identification of high-yielding tax sources, and then proposed constitutional amendment to limit tax burden on single-digit percentage. Let's find out how far they've done with implementation of this, and we're doing that with the head of that committee, Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, joins us virtually from Abuja. Mr. Oyedele, good morning, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ini, for having me.
Great. So what's the latest now? We do know about the withholding tax. We do know about the import duties being suspended for 150 days, and hopefully that's being implemented, even though, I mean, anyway, we'll get to that. But what's the latest? What's updates on the proposals, especially when we look at the proposed constitutional amendment that you want to limit tax to single digit?
Thank you very much. So, yeah, like you rightly said in your introductions, there's quite a lot of reforms that we are working on. And as we speak, there are different stages of implementation. Some of them have been signed, like a couple of the executive orders, including the ones on waivers of duties and VAT on food, pharmaceutical, agri inputs, and so on and so forth. We also have the withholding tax regulation, which has been signed by the Honorable Minister for Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, because based on the law, that regulation is meant to be signed by the Finance Minister. So we're just finalizing the process of publishing that in the official gazette, that's the government gazette. As recent as even yesterday, we're still doing the final work on this along with Ministry of Justice, and then the publication in the official gazette is with Ministry of Information. And even this last weekend as well, we were with the Lagos State government, because some of our reforms also border on sub-national. So we had a retreat the whole of Saturday, spending time on Sunday as well. We have sent about 10 amendments to the Constitution to the National Assembly, and that includes the one you mentioned in your introduction regarding limiting the number of taxes that individuals and businesses have to pay. We feel if we can put this in the Constitution, then we'll put that problem behind us for good, forever, so that nobody will come and reverse it. We also have a few other interventions we've been able to address. Some of that include trying to create a harmonized list of taxes. Currently, we have a law that we call approved levies and taxes collectible by federal, state, and local government, which is over 60. We have now drafted a law to replace that with the total number of taxes being under 10, which is a single digit. We've also had, very interesting engagement and development around the national fiscal policy. So as we speak now, we have a national fiscal policy that has gone through all the engagements with sub-national, with private sector, with the public, with the media, analysts, and the general public. We're just waiting now. The final stage is for Mr. President to sign, which we are hoping will happen in the next 1 or 2 weeks. And once that document is signed, it sets the frame for our policy around taxation and more broadly revenue generation. So you don't put burden on the vulnerable people, you support businesses to grow, you don't tax investment and capital, and so on and so forth. And then we have the policy that focuses on spending. How do you prioritize your spending so that you are spending where it will matter most to the people, given the level of multidimensional poverty we have in the country? So what is the priority of spending? What process should you go through? Ensuring there is citizens' participation, ensuring that there is the quality and efficiency of spending and accountability for our spending. And lastly, we have the policy around borrowing, to ensure that when we do borrow, we apply it productively. And even before then, ensuring that we have terms that are favorable to the country and not putting our limited resources at risk because of various risks and terms that we seem to always get into. Overall, that national fiscal policy has an objective of ensuring fair taxation, ensuring that we have responsible spending, as well as sustainable borrowing. So overall, these are some of the developments and the status of our work as we speak.
So thank you for that. I mean, every time we have you on the program, you have a lot of updates. But what is the next implementation we can expect? Maybe for some of those reforms that you say have gone through the processes, what's the next one we should expect?
Yes, yes. So that the next big one we should expect, I'll probably even say this is one of the most important work we have been doing. Spent about a little over 1 year now. Is we have redrafted, or let me put it differently, we have a proposal to repeal and redraft major tax laws, whether you're talking about companies income tax, whether it's value added tax, whether it's personal income tax, capital gains tax, stamp duties. These major taxes account for well over 90 to 95% of our revenue as a country, and we redrafted them because many of them are so old, there's no point trying to amend them. Like the stamp duty law is a law of 1939, before our independence, before the internet was invented. So we thought it's better to just draft it and say, if you have a brand new Nigeria today, what should be the ideal policy around taxation? So those laws have now been drafted. They've gone through all the stages that are necessary, including engagement with stakeholders, public and private sector, as well as with our international partners, learning from other countries. And those are now in a stage where we're only just waiting for the final approval from the Federal Executive Council. The lawmakers are currently on recess. So we want to be ready so that as soon as they resume by middle of September, we're able to present those bills to them. And we're very positive because we've been engaging with them as well, the lawmakers, I mean, that they should be able to get out of the National Assembly and being passed within a matter of 1 month to 1.5 months for the president to then assent. And we then hope to spend the rest of the year trying to build capacity, creating awareness, allowing everybody to adjust their systems where they have to. And for many of these reforms to then take effect from January 2025, which is when the people will begin to see the real impacts of the various reforms that we have been undertaking for the past 1 year or thereabouts.
Okay, we're looking forward to that. I guess that's one of the hints that the FIRS boss did tell us about a week ago, that we can expect a new form of regulation for revenue. But just before we let you go, help us to understand the import duty suspension on those staple foods. How is it supposed to work? Because I spoke to a couple of people who are at border areas. Are they supposed to be able to bring in, for instance, bags of rice into the country through the land and the water without paying duties? What does it capture?
Yes, so the idea is, of course, I think perhaps the most pressing issue for us as a country now is inflation, because inflation has a way of making the poor even poorer and has a way of reducing your purchasing power, and it just makes mystery a commonplace for the people. So it's always the priority of government to address inflation head on. So some of the announcements that have been made recently are really from the fiscal side of government policy to try and complement whatever is being done already by the other policy arms of government. And one of that is food. If you look at the CPI, that's the Consumer Price Index, if you look at the basket, which is really, without sounding too complicated, the average Nigerian household, when they earn income, where do they spend their money? That's what the basket is really all about. And it shows that Nigerians spend more than half of their income on food, about 52%. So the major driver of inflation is food inflation, which is over 40%. So what we have seen with the latest numbers of July inflation is that we saw a moderation. Prices are still going up, but the rate at which they're going up has declined by over 120 basis points on food. And because of that decline in food inflation, we've seen deceleration in the overall, inflation numbers. So that's also a confirmation of the fact that you need a lot of fiscal intervention. I'm not saying that that decline is due to the fiscal intervention around waivers, because that's only just taking off now. So the impact would only be felt by the time we see the numbers for August, but even more so, the numbers for September, because there's a lead time between when you announce and implement policies and when they begin to permeate into the economy. So the idea is, for if you look at that reduction in the rate of inflation increase for July, is driven by the decline in prices of commodities like yam. We also saw the one around tomato. We saw pepper and a few others, whereas things like rice, things like beans remain very high. So you see on the list of the items on which government is granting full waiver of import duties include, brown rice. This is not for you to bring in refined rice. We want that refining to be done locally. So we also, in a way, create economic activities locally, reduce the pressure on the exchange rate to import those things. As well as we also see beans included. We see sorghum, we see millets. So those are the areas where prices remain elevated. By the time the waivers kick in, and the rates are as high as 30% on brown rice, for example, to 20% on beans. If you take that percentage off, the cost is significant. We expect to see something close to that in the retail price that people have to pay. And the way we also look at it is, if you really want to address food inflation, you don't have to open your border to all the food that you need to consume. That's why you see that list is quite few. And the idea being that if the price of yam, beans, rice, gari come down, there will be substitution effect on the other food products. So the person that would like to eat rice but cannot afford it now, they are eating yam, and yam is increasing demand and prices are going up. If the price of rice comes down, then they eat rice, and then you have less demand for yam, and the price of yam would also come down, even though you are not importing yam into the country. So that's the whole idea.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, for your time and your work. We're certainly looking forward to more implementation and, of course, the spillover effect, as you've said, in the economy and purchasing power for Nigerians, especially inflation. But thank you so much for your time, and do well done.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now, the issue of the quality of petroleum products in circulation in Nigeria is still a topic of discussion. So it's not just Dangote that is talking about this. We've been talking to Dangote on this. Now, there's also an allegation on Matrix Energy Limited. And so our energy correspondent, Lou Phillips, had a sit-down conversation with the Chief Executive Officer of Matrix Energy Limited on this.
We've been saying that as either you or the entity being responsible for the hazardous petroleum product, this time around diesel, that has flooded the Nigerian market. Are you involved in this kind of business?
Thank you so much. We're in business now for 20 years, and we have never brought in any product that is either hazardous or off-spec. And we will never do that because we love this country. And everything is not about money. Matrix Energy stands for quality. We are professional people, and we are people that we have in-depth knowledge of the market, and we've always make use of our expertise. So in doing whatever we do, we stand in for quality, we leverage on our asset, and we also leverage on our relationship with most especially our customers, who are the one that patronizes us and uses our product.
Can you help us make a sense of where the problem is and why we have this kind of conversation going on right now as regards, first of all, diesel supply, diesel distribution, diesel availability and pricing?
I came into this industry by end of 2004. I was a banker, and the then administration, which is former President Olusegun Obasanjo, made efforts to deregulate the market. And what does deregulation mean and stand for? It gives opportunity, it moves the market from the public sector to the hand of the private sector. And we see a big opportunity there where we feel we can play. When the market is deregulated, it means it's a factor of demand and supply, willing buyer, willing seller. And since the market of diesel, which is called HGO, jet, kerosene, has been LPG fully deregulated, that is why you have seen so much progress in that market, because you've seen a lot of depots that came in across the country. You've seen a lot of investment in people buying vessels, people investing in storage facilities and all the rest, which is the best thing that has happened to the country, that today you can trade your diesel, you can trade your other deregulated product. It's a factor of your capacity, it's a factor of your ability to convince the buyers. It's a buyer's market, not actually seller's market. So you see, anybody can bring in diesel, but government then will have DPR. DPR responsibility was to ensure that the quality of the product that comes in meets the country requirement. And now that we have NMDPRA, who are the regulators in the downstream, and we have NUPRC, who is the regulator for upstream, their primary responsibility is to license us to bring in product anywhere. As at now, in terms of the economic term, we are all feeling from M, which is import into the country. So it is the sole responsibility of NMDPRA to ensure that the standard, the specification given to all the importers, will comply with it. And in a situation whereby you bring in product that is not that, you can't even discharge that product. Yeah. You talk about why the noise now. You know that OPEC has been cutting productions, they reduce production. At times they say they are maintaining the production. What it means is that the balance of trade, the volume of product that are being produced, probably is in excess of what the global world required. And you can see pricing, it affects pricing, it affects a lot of things. And you also notice that the world is moving away from fossil fuel to non-fossil fuel. So what you see invariably is that the demand for diesel, demand for all those things is expected to come down. And another thing I can tell you as well is that by this particular time in the country, you know, the demand and supply play a significant role in determining what the price is and what the reaction of the end users. And anytime you see the price is so high, people are very cognizant of what they do. A lot of people now don't even use diesels in their houses or even in the factory. They check it. Everybody says when you don't need it, you don't make it into use. So I don't see reason why there should be noise. The market is free, it's fully deregulated. There's nobody is taking any hit. Most times you may not even make profit because the market is efficient. You have to sell what you buy, and at times you sell at a loss.
Why are you still in that business if it's not a high-sounding, mega money-making business? I mean, what's the business model that is guiding the business and involvement in diesel sales?
This is our career. This is what we do. We love doing it. We have good customers. We sell to the blue chip companies. We sell to the big construction companies in the country. There's no single construction company today that doesn't buy from us. Our stations across the Federation, we sell a lot. I know what my stations sell. I know what I sell daily. I've seen some towns that people go as far as going 1 kilometer to go and buy from us. Because why? We don't compromise on quality and we don't cheat people. Our 1 liter is 1 liter. And we love doing it. We've invested heavily. Today, Matrix has 4 vessels. We bought our first vessel in 2009. And the last 2 vessels we bought was 2017. So we have invested heavily. Our 4 vessels can carry 166,000 metric ton of product at any particular point in time. And we are one of the largest charterer of vessels in the Gulf of Guinea. So it's something we love doing. It's something that brings happiness, and I'm proud that I have a very good team. My teams, they are hardworking, they are young. Probably I'm the oldest in the industry, in the company, and it's a legacy I want to leave. Matrix is not all about selling diesel. We do other products. We are one of the few depots or few companies today that we can store all products, from LPG to PMS to AGO to Jet A1 to DPK to aviation fuel, which is the same thing as ATK. Bitumen, we store bitumen as well, and then we trade this product. So it's not all about diesel. We do other products. And diesel is one of our products that we do. And because we sell virtually everything that some companies like, we are one-stop shop for a construction company.
The country is awash with what appears like an interruption of that system, of an alternative that is in country. Do you have a problem with that?
We have no problem with that. It's our pride as a nation to be not only exporting crude, but able to export petroleum products. And it's something that we will support at any point in time. We have supported 1 or 2 refineries, and we don't talk, because some of the things we do, there are confidentiality around it. But I can tell you, we are one of the people that are working to make sure that this country is able to refine and supply what is required locally. And we will do that, and we'll continue to work until this is achieved.
I'm going to do something a bit strange. I'm going to ask you to speak directly to this camera and tell Nigerians that you don't have a problem with any business disruption that gives Nigerians better value.
We are 100% in support of whatever is required for us as a nation to be self-sufficient in whatever we do. It's not only on petroleum products. There are other things that is a better country. So we will never work with whoever that want to sabotage or create an environment for the country that is unconducive for investors and new investment to come into the country.
You are absolving yourself right now of any wrongdoing.
We don't do business only here. Today we are registered and we do business with the international oil companies. We do business with the big trading company and even with the national oil companies, not only here. We know what it takes. Compliance is key to us. We have no reason or justification for us to engage in those kind of practices. We have a strong quality assurance department. We have a robust lab. We are very hard when it comes to quality assurance. We stand for integrity, and we are very professional in what we do. It's not only oil we sell. For people that in agriculture, they know our fertilizer is well sought out for. We cannot even meet demand. People look for our fertilizer. If you take our fertilizer to anywhere in the world to test, you know what if you say it's 20-10-10 is 20-10-10. Our 50 kg is 50 kg. It says Matrix is a strong brand today. We sell at premium because we don't disappoint, and we don't have any history. It's something you can confirm. None of our stations, even when with all this blackmail, cheap blackmail, our sales has even gone up. That is the honest truth. It's a blessing for us, because people that don't buy from us before, they buy from us. I have received several emails from people, and we even get more inquiry from people now on how we can supply them. We don't get involved. You can go to any of our stations or go to our depot. Is free. NMDPRA, they are doing a good job, and we should not allow people to interfere and to scare the regulators in doing what they're supposed to do.
Well, ensuring that Nigerians only use quality petroleum products, the job of the NMDPRA, and of course, Matrix had to respond to that. Now, let's look at the market numbers before we head back to Sunrise Daily Studios. It was a red week last week for the NGX, in spite of some positive movement in between, especially intraday. We had a lot of intraday green trade, but at the close of the trade last week, the market dropped 1.16%. And then the equities cap closed at 55 trillion naira. You know, there was a point we even got down to 54 trillion naira, but thankfully we regained. The activity chart was mostly red. Just volume was able to scale through with 177% increase on volume compared to the previous week. Volume and deals were in the red. Sectors, we see banking survived it, was in the green, but consumer goods, industrial goods, because of Dangote Cement, consumer goods was down almost 5%. Insurance was in the green. Oil and gas also recovered for the week. So we'll give you fresh intraday numbers during Business Incorporated. That's at 1 p.m. I'll be back. I'll be with Aneti Edet. I'll take you around the world of business in 55 minutes. Let's head back to the Sunrise Daily Studio.